Gosh, I hope we didn't forget that we're doing a thing. I'm late. Sorry. Hi, everybody. How's it going? There's a is it lagging? No, don't tell me. I don't want to know. Mouse can tier roll call. Sound off now. There's John. There's Hank. There's Jeff. There's Roger. There's Eugene. There is Brian. There is Donna. There is Chuck. There's Matthew D. There is Gary. There's Webb, and there's Bill K. Hi, everybody. How's it going? You want to do a thing? Hey, there's Deborah rolling in under the wire or near the wire. I don't know. Anyway, let's do a thing. Everybody's got a cartoon mustache. It is Thursday, the 28th of January, 2021, and this is macOS Ken Live. I say everybody's got a cartoon mustache. Mine is real, and you can tell because it changes colors. Hi, everybody. It's Ken Ray. Thank you very much for joining us for this thing that we do every Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. It is macOS Ken Live, an offshoot of macOS Ken, which is a thing that happens in the morning at no particular time except in the morning. That is also Monday through Friday, covering Apple news and news related to Apple news or news that is Apple adjacent, because that's a big word these days. A couple of things we'll talk about today. Second half of the show, it is Data Privacy Day. It is Data Privacy Day. And you want to say, yeah, well, they're celebrating that. I would say it's being marked and maybe even marred. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. First half of the show, though, let's do what we do the day after the earnings call, go over what some of the analysts have said. I said that at the beginning of the show that everybody has a cartoon mustache. I'm kind of wondering. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg, who I see as a cartoon villain. But then there are some people, some of the analysts that I see as sort of cartoons as well. Some of them are, good cartoons. Some of them are bad cartoons, or maybe I shouldn't be judgmental. Maybe there are no good or bad cartoons. As Pastor Casey said in Grapes of Wrath, they're only cartoons that people draw. I'm paraphrasing Pastor Casey. Because, yeah, it's the same as it often is. However, into the call, they feel doubly so after. Goldman Sachs still has a sell rating on Apple shares. Yes, he acknowledges the beat for the first quarter, followed by, for the second quarter. He says guidance. It's kind of funny, actually, because he says guidance was low for the second quarter. There was no guidance. There was only color, but whatever. Mac and iPad are very strong. iPad are very strong, but iPhone super cycle is in question, he says, because he has always questioned the iPhone super cycle. You will hear from other people momentarily who say what they heard yesterday was proof of the super cycle. Name rhymes with lives. He's not sure that the Mac and the iPad can stay strong as the world starts to reopen post-COVID-19. I'm curious which part of the world he's living in, that we're all suddenly going back to work tomorrow and don't need to work from home. I mean, I work from home. I have for years, but I've told you about my friend who is like not going back till June now. That's what they're saying publicly. Privately, he thinks they're never going back to the office again. Not because they have to, but because business is looking at it going, why are we doing all that? Not buying coffee for all those people. Let them have their own coffee and air conditioning and desks. So Ron Hall has a sell rating on Apple shares, though he did raise his 12-month price target on the shares. It was $80. It's now $83. So if you hold on to your Apple stock until they get to 80, boy, did you miss the boat, says Rod Hall. UBS analyst David Vogt also doubts the iPhone super cycle. He is also worried about tough comparisons for the next few quarters. This kind of makes me nuts. All right, services, whatever, they did great. Apple noted it expects growth to decelerate in the March quarter due to tough comparisons because, the year ago and COVID and all that. Moreover, we believe long-term services growth will decelerate to low double digits in fiscal year 2022. So still going to grow, but it's only going to grow like 10% or more next year. So, practically done already. He's got a neutral rating on Apple shares and a price target of 115. Bernstein research analyst Tony Sacconaghi. This is literally the headline. By the way, I'm pulling all these from Apple 3.0, the Philip Elmer-DeWitt site. He gathers up, notes, pulls out pertinent parts, and puts them up for people to see. Really, the headline from Tony Sacconaghi at Bernstein says it all. A strong quarter. Now what? Gosh, it's the kind of thing you might have said last quarter, or the quarter before that, or the quarter before that. If you listen to today's macOS Ken, you heard everything that Tim Cook said to him, starting with, "What's the matter with you?" He didn't actually say that. He should have. I wanted to say, "What's the matter with you?" Because he said, "Can you tell us what Apple's going to be doing for the next 5 years?" Really? And yet Tim Cook went over all that stuff that he had to talk about, pointing to Apple's strongest product portfolio ever, its strongest pipeline ever, its growing installed base, the fact that it's growing the number of switchers and upgraders, the fact that it's growing the services segment, the fact that wearables are now the size of a Fortune 120 company, and wearables have only been a business for Apple for about 5.5 years. That is a market that is just starting for all intents and purposes. Who do we hear from? Somebody else. Well, it was on the earnings call. 75% of the people who bought Apple Watch last quarter were new to Apple Watch. It's already the size of a Fortune 120 company. The product itself is only about 5.5 years old. 3/4 of the people buying them have never had one before. But you're right. What are you going to do for me next quarter? He's got a market perform rating on Apple shares. However, he did raise his price target. Was $120. It's now $132. Samik Chatterjee at JP Morgan. 5G delivers to bullish expectations. He's got an overweight rating and a price target of 150. Kyle McNeely at Jefferies says it was an impressive quarter all around, and there is more to come. We still think the street underappreciates how Apple's positioned to benefit from the 5G product cycle now underway. We are specifically encouraged by iPhone as the flywheel for the company, generating attached services, wearables, and accessories. Importantly, 5G impact on Apple's business is still early innings, and we expect much more to come. He upped his price target from 140 to 160. Andrew Yerkowitz at Oppenheimer upped his price target from 125 to 160. Harsh Kumar over at Piper Sandler. Strength continues as secular growth drivers persist. He's got an overweight rating on Apple shares. He upped his price target from 135 to 160. Amit Daryanani upped his from 160 to 163. Katie Huberty at Morgan Stanley. It's too long to read. There's so much stuff here. There's so much stuff here. She basically does the same kind of point by point that Tim Cook did when he was talking to Tony Sacconaghi. Active device installed base growth accelerated to 10% from 7% a year ago, while services monetization grew at the fastest rate in several years. Customer loyalty remains well north of 90% across Apple products, and half of Mac and iPod purchasers and 75% of watch buyers are new to those products. She talks about recovery in China being broad and growing in every category, outperforming the company's own expectations. She's got an overweight rating on Apple shares, and she also upped her price target from 152 to 164. And I only include this last one because it's funny. Daniel Ives, Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives, head of Apple's Pep Squad financial division, issued two notes. Two, saying that yesterday's earnings were proof of the supercycle thesis that he's been pushing for quite a while now. He's stuck with his outperform rating. And of course, he's stuck with his price target of $175 because that's still the tippy top. Had anybody gone to 175, Philip Elmer-DeWitt says he would have upped his to 180 because he likes to be king of the mountain. So Apple shares, of course, were down yesterday. I assume part of that was because of the overall sell-off in the market, but there was a piece highlighted by Mac Daily News, but it was written by, Shucky Darn even. Can't remember if it was Barron's or Fortune, but they were basically highlighting somebody else's report. They say part of the problem and the reason that Apple shares fell on Wednesday was that Apple CEO Tim Cook and CFO Luca Maestri tamped down expectations for the current quarter. They, of course, did talk about the tough comparison coming up in quarters ahead, and they didn't offer guidance. And then there's the other thing that both Katie Huberty and Tony Sacconaghi talked about. And to be clear, I joked on macOS Ken today that there's a right way and a wrong way to ask the question. Both Tony Sacconaghi and Katie Huberty were asking the same question. What's coming for Apple? Now, Katie Huberty was smart enough, and I'm not saying that Sacconaghi isn't smart. Katie Huberty, though, the way she asked it, it at least gave her an insight into the kinds of things that Apple is doing. Because when Tony Sacconaghi says, what are you going to do for the next 5 years? That's a perfect opportunity for Tim Cook to stand there and say, look at everything that we're doing right now. Look at all of the different markets that we're barely even in, that there's so much room for growth. It doesn't really invite Tim Cook to say the kinds of things that they're looking for going forward. The stuff that he said to Katie Huberty was fascinating. Starting with, we look at a product, like if somebody comes to us with an idea, or if we internally have an idea, the first question we ask is that a thing that we would want to use? That's great. The second thing he said that they look at is it a big enough market for them to get into? And the third thing they do is they look for a place where software, hardware, and services meet. They look for that intersection because, as he put it, there is magic at that intersection. I appreciate both of their questions because the reason they were both asking is because I believe that the way Katie Huberty put it, given the lack of visibility into the roadmap, it's hard for investors to know how to think about Apple. I kind of wish, whatever. Everybody's got a cartoon mustache. I look at Tony Sacconaghi and I immediately think, why are you being dopey? And the thing is, he's not being dopey. If I pull myself out of that, he's smart. The questions he's asking are smart. I think part of the reason I look at him with a cartoon mustache is because he is always the same way every time he turns up. Apple blows it out of the water. He says, yeah, but I don't see how they're going to do it again. Apple does it again. And he says, okay, yeah, sure, but I don't see how they're going to do it again. Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. Eat, sleep, rave, repeat. He's just doing it over and over and over again. That's a Calvin Harris song, by the way. Lots of other reactions from lots of other analysts. We will talk about some of those on tomorrow's macOS Ken. Yeah, it just felt like I kind of had to do that because I always do. But there's other stuff to talk about, and we will in just a moment. First, I want to remind you about another show that I do. Very happy to have Stephen Warwick on the checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac earlier this week. Well, actually, it came out today. I find the whole Zoom thing fascinating. Some of the numbers that he threw out, I think I mentioned these here yesterday. December of last year, December of 2019, I mean, Zoom had 10 million users. By April of 2020, Zoom had 300 million users. And you say, well, how could anything go wrong? We talk about how we think things might have gone wrong. We also talk about some of the things that Zoom has done to protect callers and some of the things that Zoom callers need to do as well. I enjoyed talking to him. It was fascinating. I hope you'll check it out. What you're looking for is checklist number 216, zooming into 2021. Look for the checklist by Secure Mac wherever you get podcasts, or you can go straight to the website, securemac.com/checklist, and there it will be. Congratulations, by the way. It is Data Privacy Day. I didn't get you anything. Although really the joke should be, I got you something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's secret. Because privacy. So Apple issued a press release Wednesday night, Thursday morning while I was finishing up the stuff about the earnings call, marking Data Privacy Day. They quoted Craig Federighi, Apple's senior VP of software engineering, who said privacy means peace of mind, it means security, and it means you're in the driver's seat when it comes to your own data. Our goal is to create a technology that keeps people's information safe and protected. We believe privacy is a fundamental human right, and our teams work every day to embed that into everything that we make. All right, so where's my ATT? Well, it turns out it's coming. Finally, we finally get to hear when app tracking transparency is coming. They said in the press release, starting soon with Apple's next beta update, app tracking transparency will require apps to get the user's permission before tracking their data across apps or websites owned by other companies. This requirement will roll out broadly in early spring with an upcoming release of iOS 14, iPadOS 14, and tvOS 14, and has already garnered support from privacy advocates around the world. So what is that, like March or April? I guess, because he said early spring and it's winter. And I don't want to be, that guy. But I'm assuming that their press release has been fully vetted by people who say, if you say early spring, anyway, we're finally getting some movement on app tracking transparency. It's not just the boogeyman in the closet, for Facebook and Google, who we'll get to in a minute. You may wonder why it was Federighi who was quoted in the press release and not Apple CEO Tim Cook. Well, that's because Tim Cook was getting ready to do some other data privacy stuff. He spoke today, online, of course, at the 2021 Computers, Privacy, and Data Protection Conference. And everybody says he took aim at Facebook. You could argue there are other people he was taking aim at as well, but it does seem pretty obvious he was taking aim at Facebook, even though he did not mention them by name. Couple of quotes of note. The fact is that an interconnected ecosystem of companies and data brokers, of purveyors of fake news and peddlers of division, of trackers and hucksters just looking to make a quick buck is more present in our lives than it has ever been. And it has never been so clear how it degrades our fundamental right to privacy first and our social fabric by consequence. It's a very long speech. I have not yet read the whole thing, and I haven't found it online yet, but I do appreciate Engadget pulling out a couple of really pertinent parts, including this one. At a moment of rampant disinformation and conspiracy theories juiced by algorithms, we can no longer turn a blind eye to a theory of technology that says all engagement is good engagement. The longer, the better. And all with the goal of collecting as much data as possible. Later, the Apple CEO argued that there was a clear cost to the practice of over-prioritizing interaction and growth over human concerns, polarization of lost trust, and, yes, of violence. So he's drawing the line between what Facebook allows and, insurrection, maybe? I don't know. I've heard that before about about any interaction is good interaction. Somebody told me that on YouTube, actually, and please don't do this because it would stink, but somebody told me that on YouTube, actually, an up thumb is as good as a down thumb as far as whatever algorithm runs YouTube. What they're seeing is interaction. And if they can get, if I'm getting you angry enough that you're going, boo on something, YouTube doesn't care whether the person who is saying boo likes it or not. What they care about is the fact that, they're watching it, that they're engaged enough, because probably if they're enough into what I'm saying or enough not into what I'm saying to pay attention and decide yes or no, then they're going to pay attention to the ad that comes across for, whomever. I was going to name a sponsor. I won't do that because I met with them for a sponsor one day. I think that little lizard is cute. On Mark Zuckerberg, Cook's comments come one day after Apple reported all-time high quarterly revenue, says Engadget, fueled largely by demand for the company's new iPhone 12. Facebook was actually reporting its numbers at the same time that Apple was reporting its. The ongoing tension between the two companies was still on display. At one point during the customary post-earnings call, Mr. Zuckerberg criticized Apple for overstating its position on data privacy and the way underlying changes in iOS 14 could dampen Facebook ad revenue. According to Zuckerberg, Apple has every incentive to use their dominant platform position to interfere with how our apps and other apps work, which they regularly do to preference their own. This impacts the growth of millions of businesses around the world, including with the upcoming iOS 14 changes. Many small businesses will no longer be able to reach their customers with targeted ads. Apple may say that they're doing this to help people, but the moves clearly track their competitive interests. I wish he would grow a mustache, because then I could say he has a cartoon mustache. He doesn't. He just got a cartoon face. Big shock, by the way, coming from the Facebook side. Remember how Apple was going to implement ATT back in the last fall, with the release of iOS 14? And then Facebook and a couple of other groups came to Apple and said, we need time. We need time to figure out how to implement. We need time to figure out how to work. This is going to, torpedo so many boats. Can you give us time? And Apple said, yeah, okay, we'll give you time. Turns out they're going to give them half a year. Surprise, surprise. It turns out Facebook hasn't really been figuring out how to work. They've just been working on a lawsuit. Well, this is not official. I apologize. The Information wrote in a piece that was also highlighted by Engadget. Engadget, reading the Information piece, says Facebook has reportedly been preparing an antitrust lawsuit against Apple for months, centering around an allegation that the company is forcing developers to follow App Store rules that its own apps don't have to abide by. The potential litigation would follow an antitrust suit that Epic Games brought against Apple last year. That developer is seeking changes. Like Epic, Facebook could ask for changes to the App Store rules rather than monetary damages from Apple. Facebook has reportedly mulled asking other companies to join the lawsuit, but there's no guarantee that it will actually follow through with suing Apple. For its part, Apple has argued that it doesn't have the largest share of the smartphone market and that its App Store rules reduce the risk of malware and scams, which Apple has been arguing for, years. I'll be honest, I was so caught up in the financial stuff that I have not had nearly as much time as I want to go into the privacy thing. I know that both Facebook and Google have talked about how Apple's implementation of ATT is going to affect their business going forward. It's kind of amazing to think about ATT affecting Google in the same way. I also haven't looked into whether Google has actually posted the privacy nutrition labels that they were supposed to. Well, I shouldn't say that they were supposed to. If they were going to update their apps, then they were supposed to. If there are still no privacy nutrition labels on some of Google's biggest apps in the App Store, that would indicate that they have not updated any of those apps since the first week of December. But that's a thing I'll have to look into for tomorrow. So tomorrow's macOS Ken, by the way, in case you're wondering, is privacy, lawsuits, and financial stuff. Oh, and Black History Month. Man, Apple is doing a ton on that. I feel kind of bad. I might have to push that to Monday because tomorrow's show is getting so big, but Apple is doing a ton of stuff pointing to Black History Month. I mean, some of it's about selling you stuff too. Like they're putting out a special Apple Watch. They're putting out a special Apple Watch specifically for Black History Month, if I read that correctly. I know they're putting out a band. I know they also have faces as well, but there's lots of stuff on podcasts and movies and books and, other offerings, apps that have been developed by and for the Black community. So that'll be something that we'll be talking about either tomorrow or Monday. Just so much. And we'll talk about some of it here tomorrow as well, because we do this every afternoon. Well, Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, youtube.com/Ken Ray. We do the show, and then afterwards, I go hang out in the chat room and talk to people in the chat room. I'm pointing to them right now because that's where my chat room indicator is. So you people over there, coming over there in just a moment to talk to you. Everybody else, talk to you soon. Show's over. And there's the end of the show marker. So the show is in fact over. And now the show is over now. They may be giants. Where are we? Everybody was talkative today. Jeff says he wonders what the thing will be today. I wonder what thing you're talking about, Jeff. Zuckerberg can't grow a mustache. He probably could. He should pull a Groucho, though. Just, draw a mustache on and go out. A cartoon mustache. I wish I had a pencil-thin mustache. Tried it once. It's ghastly. Okay, so a lot of it was that the video was bad. That's great. John, you have seriously not cut your mustache or your beard in 11 months? Dude, I thought about doing that, but yeah, I was watching an interview with Letterman the other day, post his show. His beard is something. I wonder if yours rivals. Okay, video got back to better for everybody. Good. Webb's keeping it weird. Good for him. Did anybody explain the overweight, underweight, and price targets to Jeff? Price target. Okay, there we go. Webb's doing it. Yeah, 12-month price target is basically where they think the price should be about 12 months from now, and the overweight, underweight, or neutral, or buy, sell, hold. Buy, sell, hold is an easier way to say it. Buy it or get rid of it, or it's fine. That's an oversimplification, but there you go. Do. And now everybody's explaining that, and I'm doing it 20 minutes later. So there you go. Your price target is 149. Is that for you personally, Webb, or your price target on Apple? Oh, Media Cafe Online is doing a much better job of explaining it than I was. I highly recommend, because you guys are still talking about the buy, sell, hold thing at this point. I cannot recommend enough Apple 3.0. The website is PED30 because it's Philip Elmer DeWitt 30. I hate that name because it looks bad, but he basically pulls as many notes as he can, and then he also does charts of where everybody is relative to everybody else. He does smackdowns. I love his site. I loved his work on Fortune so much that I still call him Fortune's Philip Elmer DeWitt, because I called him that for years because I referenced him for years. If you're interested in sort of a more day-to-day and keeping up, it's really accessible, and it's really good. And he's got a little bit of snark. And who doesn't love that? Oh, Brittany. There's a third of Mac Voices Live here, says Frank. That's funny. Is Chuck planning a hostile takeover? That is also funny. Wow. Okay. Frank's not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg, it looks like. I don't know the answer to your question. Eugene asks, does doing a thumbs down remove your thumbs up? I don't know. Wow. And then Eugene did it. Oh, eek. Ah. Oh, and then he changed it back. Yay. Uh-oh. Things jumped. Hold on. Why are you guys talking about candles? I must have missed that part. Unless I talked about candles, in which case I must have missed that part. Got a message from somebody who said something about something that I didn't realize I had talked about here, but apparently I did because I got a message from somebody going, "I hope that's okay." Like, when did I mention that? I bet that happens all the time. Slip up and give out my social security number one day. Excuse me. Oh, apparently I was pointing the wrong place for the chat room. Sorry, everybody. I'll start pointing over there. But then that other chat room will think I'm talking about them. Oh, hello, Ryan. I am also sorry you were late. All right. I think we're down at the end there. And somebody knows what today is for me. So I need to go turn this really quickly into an audio podcast and then get it out for the people who could not make it to the live show. I don't know if I've actually said it lately, but thank you all for being here the times that you are. And no sweat when you can't be. I've had people like write to me and apologize for not being able to be here. I just sort of like plopped into 3:30 in the afternoon a few months ago. I don't expect everybody to be able to be here when they are, but it means a ton to me. Yes, yes, Donna and John, it's grocery day. Thank you for knowing that. It means the world to me when you guys are here. If there are any new people here, it's wonderful to see you as well. You regular people or you occasional people? Well, I think you're always people, but you people who are occasionally here, I can't thank you enough. You rock. And with that, I'm out. Anybody need Ken to pick up some snacks for the room? I like that idea. I like that idea a lot, actually. It won't work, but I like the idea. Set up like a green room for the show or a hospitality room. Everybody brings snacks next week. We'll talk about what we got. All right, I'm gone. Take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon.